just didn't even have a thesis, or I always tell them after a certain point, after we've been writing for a certain point, put your finger on the thesis, because those are points that we don't have to lose, you know? If you can't do that, you need to go back and revise that introductory paragraph. Don't leave that paragraph until you have a clear thesis.
Okay.
So that was one of the major differences between high and low. High had what the actual STAR rubric says, a clear thesis, ideas are strongly related. So that will be high. Low, you're down here at the one where it says thesis is missing, unclear, or illogical, or thesis is weak or somewhat unclear.
Okay.
So those are some of the things we're focusing on. Like we said before, they've already written the expository essay before, so we're just kind of building on that prior knowledge just to start up essay writing. So, I mean, I would consider this to be a baseline writing. I shouldn't even have to really tell you this. Is
But
really
you
more
saw
of a
that you
review.
do.
Right.
Right?
But yeah, clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Ms. McKinney?
Okay, I did the one pager too, but because my one pager came a little bit after their one pagers, I assessed for more skills because I had taught more skills.
Okay.
So I assessed for the plot diagram, which was something that we had discussed doing with the first story. And then I assessed for a lot of the academic vocabulary that I had taught in my class and reinforced. So things that they should be proficient in achieving mastery at are identifying diction and explaining the importance of it, imagery, syntax, tone. Also, I had them address the moral dilemma. And so I have text evidence that they used to support what they were saying, which was something that they needed to practice. Symbolism, which was a good way to take up space in the one pager. If they had written what they needed, then they could draw. And I've been really pleased with the majority of how my students have brought in everything that we've done this grading cycle and this last week and put it into, it's like they just poured it all in. So there's a lot going on these one pagers.
Okay. So you could, just like with Ms. Victoria, you could compare your high and your low. Between your high and your low, what did you see the differences on?
I'm with her on that. It was obvious, like these would be my lows.
Okay.
Okay, with my lows, it was obvious, first of all, they didn't have a lot to say.
Okay.
Which probably means that they were not emotionally invested in the story. Maybe they didn't pay that close of attention when we read it. Maybe they didn't go back and look back at the story like they were supposed to do. This student used text evidence, which is good, but failed to explain the significance of the text evidence.
Okay.
This student's got explanation, but this student has no text evidence, so it's sort of a toss-up as to which one would score higher. I mean, they're both missing key components too. Maybe if we combined them together, we would have a better paper.
Right.
So you can see that there's a big difference between what this student had to say and this student had to say and what these students had to say. And I pulled this one just because it's a good example of a one-pager that can be really horribly messy and look like there's not a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. It's just that he is not very tidy and he doesn't have good handwriting. And
So did he meet all your requirements?
I have not yet assessed it to
Okay.
see if he's met all of the requirements, but based on my knowledge of this student, I would guess that the answer is yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, just, English teachers have a tendency to go, oh, if it's not, like our initial response to something like this is, oh, that's beautiful,
Yeah.
surely this girl's gonna make obviously it's a girl, she's gonna make a good grade, but then we go, oh, that's a boy, and
It's messy.
yeah, it's messy, and he's not a very good artist, and, but his thought processes, regardless of his presentation, are really
it there?
on top,
Uh-huh.
yeah. He's a top-notch student. He's always got the right things to say in class. He finishes fast. So, if I was going to help him maybe be a little bit more successful, would be maybe slow down and take your time. Or even, and I'm going to make kind of a gender statement here. I'm going to guess, based on his handwriting, that this boy has a little bit of a focus struggle. And I'm going to guess that if I gave him the opportunity to utilize his iPad to do this one pager, that the one pager that he came out with versus hand and pen and ink, using technology would be fantastic.
Yep.
Because he could use technology to do that. So that's something that I'm going to try as I get to know my students better, figuring out how to differentiate for their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So like this boy would really benefit as the person who's going to have to look at it, if I let him go into technology and pull clip art out, or use a particular app to create one pagers on the computer versus having to draw it.
Okay. So now that we see that there's some struggles, what are we going to do for the next step? when it comes to your writing process. If you're seeing that there's, between your highs and lows, your highs are getting it, but your lows, like with Miss McKinney's, how would we attack those kids the next time that we're teaching? What are y'all gonna do to fix and help the lows?
Okay, well, so now that they're on my radar,
Mhm.
right? Because I'll figure out who's really like who's doing a good job of analyzing the story, who's doing a good job of digging deep when we're spending our class time on it, and who do I need to go around and double check and make reinforce because before school just started, so maybe I didn't know that Mauricio was a student that wasn't going to dig deep.
Okay.
But now I do. So when Mauricio is in my class, to walk by and be like, hey Mauricio, hey, let's talk about the story for just a second. Like, what are you thinking about in regard to tone? Versus, assuming that he's got the same level as everybody else that he's working near.
Okay.
So it helps us get to know our students better when they do creative projects like this, because.
Is it something that you're gonna have them practice, or is it something that you are just gonna address with that one student?
I think that both. I think that there's a way that we can figure out how to figure out what to do as a group, like as an intervention there. But I think that because my students are not their students, I have to keep in mind which students need the extra support, which students need my extra support, and making sure that they're focused and on task and not staring off into space and actually understanding what's expected of them. Another thing that I found helpful was showing good examples to my classes, because at the very beginning when I first started the assignment, I showed examples that were on the internet, but they weren't of this particular assignment. So these are my A-Day classes, so my B-Day classes are benefiting today from, hey, let me show you what looks really good.
Okay.
So
you
I
can
think
show some examples.
Yeah, I think that helps us too, right?
Absolutely.
They're just smaller, younger us. If it helps me to see what's expected of me, then I'm assuming, it's gonna help them.
And I'll be
Okay,
able to
Miles?
do that also with the essays, because since we've started up I'll say analyzing persuasion, because that's unit 2, we will be analyzing speeches and persuasive writing. So that's not a student example, but it's a professional example, because they can actually see it in the textbook and see, oh, okay, I see how they use those rhetorical devices. At that point, it's not just, oh, we define this word, this is what it means, but here's an actual writing. And hopefully if we can squeeze it in there, they can see ads and commercials and movie trailers and see how it's. I know ads and commercials are in the curriculum, but so they can actually see how people use these things in real life, and especially with the political climate now, they can see, politicians use these things. Because we talked about that earlier in class, and someone made a claim, and the other student said, well, that's not true. Well, everything that we see on the news isn't necessarily true, but that's that person's opinion. And persuasive writing, even the essay prompt says to, write an essay stating your opinion. So it's just that person's opinion.
Right.
So it's how strong is your opinion, how well can you support that. So as a reteach, I gave them an outline, so they had one, but I don't feel like it was as strong. So that's something that I corrected myself with and gave them a better outline, so that when they do write persuasively, they'll have that, and then a better rubric.
Okay.
So.
You, Miss?
And the last part Ms. Miles said was basically a better rubric, and by that, we give them rubrics, but giving them more of a map, because what the map does versus the rubric, or even the graphic organizer. The graphic organizer may tell them that you have your claim here, your reasons there, support there, but it's like with the expository essay that they're writing, it has the introduction paragraph, and it tells them from the beginning, start with an interesting idea. It guides them, just like this.
Okay.
This is specific, because the students say, well, I had problems with the analysis. I said, okay, did you do these? If you start here, then you can have everything. So, and I think that although they won't, if they get enough practice with this, when they have to write, they know that, okay, I don't want to just necessarily start with my thesis statement, because many of them, they'll read this prompt and they'll start immediately with their thesis statement, which is effective at times, but sometimes showing them how to start. So giving them more a map, more than just a rubric. They may have the rubric, but a map of, outlining what
What needs to be in?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so that's kinda how we'll look at your assessments from here on out. We're gonna look at what you had successes in, what you had failures in, and what our next steps will be. So the next steps that we're gonna be, will be what you're gonna be doing from here on out. And I know we're out of time, so Wednesday or Thursday? When we meet again?
Wednesday's PSAT day.
Okay, so Thursday is when y'all meet again, right?
Yes.
Okay, Ryan will be here and I'll give him specifics on helping y'all plan your next lesson plans. Y'all see what y'all might wanna have inside your activities now?
Yeah.
Because you're planning and you're seeing where your kids need help. Kind of establishing those rubrics, establishing those essays, and establishing what activities can help y'all kind of get back in and get all those reteach pieces you need, okay? Cause you see where your kids are struggling. Is this helpful?
Yep.
Okay.